The year was 1871, and the Montana Territory bled beneath a red dusk sky. The land stretched wide and cruel, caught between silence and violence, where every man watched his back, and every woman kept her heart buried deeper than gold. Dust rode the wind like ghosts from another war, and down in the low valley near Fort Roan, the trading post walls stood like splinters in the ribs of the land, splinters too stubborn to rot. Elias Carter pushed open the warped wooden door, boots thudding on the floorboard. The room inside smelled of smoke, sweat, and spilled bourbon. A card game froze mid-hand as every pair of eyes turned on him. He said nothing, just nodded once, like a man who didn't need to announce himself. He wasn't law anymore, hadn't worn a badge since the war ended, but folks still looked at him like he might hang them if they blinked wrong. He didn't much mind that. Behind the counter, old Jedediah wiped a rust-stained cleaver on his apron. "Evenin', Elias," he grunted, slicing fat from a slab of jerky. "Heard you ran some bandits out past Red Canyon last week." Elias grunted in reply. He didn't correct the rumor. Let them think he was still dangerous. It kept the drunkards polite and the desperate honest. He reached for tobacco, placed 2 coins down. A subtle tension lingered in the room. Men who had seen too much said too little. Somewhere near the fireplace, someone coughed, rough and wet, like they'd swallowed too much winter. Then the door creaked again. She stepped in like thunder rolling over dry earth. Quiet, but charged with the kind of presence that made grown men forget their cards and reach for their rifles. A Cheyenne woman, wrapped in soft deerskin trimmed with blue beading. Her hair fell in a long black braid, her gaze sharp as cut glass. She didn't flinch as every eye turned on her, didn't slow as boots scuffed and stool scraped. Elias froze, hand halfway to his pouch. Not because she was Cheyenne, though that would have been enough to earn a bullet from some men in the room, but because she looked straight at him, eyes locked, like she already knew his name and what he dreamed of at night. Jedediah muttered, "Ain't no good comes from her kind walking in here." Elias didn't answer. He just watched as she moved to the counter and placed a bundle wrapped in hide. "I'm here for my brother's rifle," she said, her voice fluent, unaccented. "You man sold it without right." Jed blinked. "Don't know what you're talking about, girl." "I do." She untied the bundle. Inside lay a pouch decorated with elk teeth. This was his. "You know it. You folks don't got claim inside these walls." She narrowed her eyes. "Then maybe you'd prefer I take this to the fort. Captain Harlan still honors treaties." Elias stepped forward before Jed could reach for the shotgun below the counter. "Let her speak," he said. Jed eyed him. "You vouchin' for her?" "I'm saying it ain't worth dying over a trade you knew was foul." A moment passed, tense like a match waiting to catch, and then Jed barked a bitter laugh. "Hell with it." He tossed a battered rifle across the counter. "Take the damn thing." She caught it with a nod, turned to leave. But Elias spoke again. "Name?" She paused. "Ayanna." "No last name. Just that, like the wind, needed a surname." The next evening he found her again, not by design, he told himself, but he wasn't fool enough to believe it. She stood near the riverbank outside camp, alone, watching the current swirl like thoughts too wild to voice. "You get your brother's rifle back," he said. She didn't turn. "You have a soldier's walk, but your hands look empty. Left the army 3 years ago. And yet you carry war like a coat you forgot how to take off." That stung more than it should. He stood beside her, close enough to feel her stillness, like the moment before a deer bolts. "You're not welcome in the post," he said. "I don't care." "You should." She turned then, eyes narrowing. "And you? Do you care what they'll say? You spoke for me." "I spoke to stop blood from staining a floor that's already too red." Ayanna studied him, searching his face for truth or weakness. "They say you shot a man who insulted your horse." "I like that horse." That made her smile, barely, but it made him feel like the whole world had shifted just a breath closer. Over the next week he saw her again. Always near the edges, edge of campfires, edge of trail paths, edge of trouble. And he couldn't help it. He kept walking toward her. They spoke in small doses, like pouring whiskey slow not to spill. He learned her father was Chief Walks with Storm, her mother long dead. She had studied with missionaries once, learned English too fast, thought too loud for her tribe, too brown for the whites. "You don't belong anywhere," he said once. "I belong where I choose," she answered. "Do you?" And there it was, her question cutting through his quiet like wind through chimes. He didn't answer. Word spread faster than fire on dry grass. That Elias Carter had been seen talking with the chief's daughter, that they were meeting near Widow's Ridge, that he'd gone soft, that maybe he wasn't as white as he looked. One evening, the foreman of the Triple X Ranch caught Elias by the corral, a bottle in one hand, a rope in the other. "You seein' her?" he asked, voice low, mean. Elias didn't flinch. "What if I am?" "You're digging your own grave, Carter. That girl's poison. Don't matter how sweet her eyes look. She'll get you killed or worse." He could have thrown a punch, could have ended it there. Instead, Elias walked away. Later that night, Ayanna found him seated by a dying fire, fingers wrapped around a tin cup of stale coffee. "You look like a man who's lost his name." "I feel like one." She sat beside him, not asking permission. "Then take another." He looked at her, eyes searching hers for something, an answer, a sign, a reason to walk away before it was too late. But all he saw was firelight dancing across her cheekbones, and a strength that both frightened and freed him. "I think about you more than I should," he admitted. Ayanna didn't smile, but her voice softened. "And what do you plan to do with that thought?" "I haven't figured that out yet." "Then don't wait too long. This land doesn't forgive hesitation." The next morning, smoke rose from the horizon. A hunting party had been ambushed, no one knew by whom. Some blamed Cheyenne raiders. Some whispered it was a setup. Bodies lay bloated and picked clean by crows. The post bristled with suspicion, men gripping rifles tighter, words turning sharp and bloody. Ayanna didn't come to the ridge that night. Elias waited anyway until the cold bit into his bones. 2 nights later, she appeared without warning. "They say we did it," she said. "Killed those ranchers. But we didn't." "I know. They're preparing a raid." "I know that too." She stepped closer, face inches from his. "If they come, my people will fight. And die. Then stop it." "How?" She didn't answer. She only touched his hand, brief, burning, and for a moment, Elias Carter forgot who he was, what side he stood on, and why loving her was the worst thing a man like him could do. Later that week, he met her in the hollow behind Widow's Ridge. She kissed him then, not like a promise, but like a warning. He didn't pull away, but he felt it deep in his gut. This wasn't a path back to peace. It was a straight road into fire. He didn't care. When he rode back to the post that night, a message waited for him, carved into his cabin door with a blade. "She's OFF limits. You ain't asterisk asterisk." Elias Carter stood before it in silence, the lantern flickering behind him. And for the first time since the war ended, he felt something raw, alive, pulse beneath his ribs. Not fear, not anger, but a choice. And he knew then, whatever came next, it wouldn't be easy. But neither was breathing without her. And Elias Carter had finally stopped holding his breath. The moon hung high over the plains, pale and indifferent, casting silver light across the cold earth. The trees whispered like old men remembering war, and beneath them, Elias Carter sat with his back to a cottonwood trunk, watching the trail. His rifle rested across his knees, but it wasn't bandits or wolves he waited for. It was her. Again, Ayanna came like the wind, unannounced, soft in her steps, and yet the whole world felt different when she arrived. She didn't smile as she knelt across from him, her breath fogging in the chilled night air. The distance between them was short, but the weight of everything unsaid stretched like a canyon. "My father knows," she said at last. Elias didn't flinch. "What did he say?" "That I'm foolish, that you'll get me killed, that I'll get you worse." "He's not wrong." She glanced sideways. "Are you afraid?" He looked out at the stars, and for a moment the sky seemed too wide to answer. "No, not of death." Ayanna's eyes lingered on him, reading the shape of his silences. "Then of what?" "Of what comes before it." The next few days passed in restless unease. The town's edge tightened like a noose. Men eyed each other too long. Women whispered behind curtain windows. Ayanna kept her visits secret and brief. They'd meet near the willow grove or under the bluff where coyotes howled at dusk, speaking little, saying everything in looks and touches. Elias traced the lines of her fingers like scripture. Ayanna brushed wind-blown hair from his face like she was trying to memorize a version of him that might not last. Trouble brewed like thunder beyond the ridge. Elias heard it first in the muttering at Jedediah's counter, in the way rifles disappeared from racks and boots stomped harder on porch steps. He saw it in the clenched jaw of ranch hands, the way the foreman spat every time he said savages, and in the unspoken quiet that followed when Elias walked into a room. One morning, the sky bled gray as Elias stood in the stockyard, mending a split rail. A rider thundered in, horse foamed and panting. The man flung himself off the saddle, face twisted with panic. They hit the North Line camp, burned it down, took the horses. One dead, two gone. By noon, everyone had drawn sides. It didn't matter that no one had proof. Didn't matter that the Cheyenne had never raided north. Blood demanded blame, and everyone looked to the tribe beyond the ridge. Elias didn't wait. He saddled his mare and rode hard for Ayanna's camp, heart pounding with every hoofbeat. When he arrived, smoke curled from cook fires, but the camp buzzed with unease. Children stayed near the tents. Warriors sharpened spears, and at the center stood Ayanna, arms folded, face like carved stone. "They blame you," Elias said. She nodded. "Of course they do." "Did your people do it?" "No, but truth doesn't matter when men want a war." The chief approached then, flanked by two elders. He studied Elias with cold scrutiny. "You care for my daughter." Elias didn't answer. He didn't have to. "Then you will leave," the chief said, "and never return, before your love kills her." Ayanna stepped forward. "He is not the enemy. He is white," her father snapped, "and so he brings fire wherever he walks." That night, Elias waited on the outskirts of camp. Rain came soft and steady, soaking the earth and washing away the tracks of everything that had once felt sure. Ayanna found him there, shivering beneath his oilskin, his horse already restless to move. "I'm leaving," he said. "I know, but not without you." She looked at him, the moment stretching between them, fragile as glass. "Do you understand what you're asking?" "Yeah, I'm asking if you'll choose me over them." Ayanna stepped into his arms, pressed her cheek to his chest. "I already have." They rode west toward the Blackwood Hills. No map, no plan, just the desperate faith that distance would buy them time. The land turned rough and wild, trees crowding in, rivers too swollen to cross without prayer. They found shelter in an old trapper's shack, long abandoned, hidden beneath a bluff of cedar. Days passed in tense, breathless peace. Elias built fires. Ayanna hunted rabbits and gathered roots. They slept curled beside each other, not for passion, but survival. Though desire lingered in the silence, in the way her hands brushed his jaw, in how he traced her scars like memories. Once she asked, "Do you regret it?" He said nothing for a long while. "No, but I'm afraid it won't be enough." She kissed him then, soft and slow, and for a moment the war beyond the woods vanished. But peace never lasted. On the sixth night, Elias spotted smoke on the horizon. "They found us." Ayanna readied her bow. "We run." "Not this time." They packed quickly. Elias wrapped his rifle in oilcloth, handed her his spare revolver. "You shoot only if you have to." She nodded once, steel in her gaze. The first shot rang out just after dawn. It splintered the silence, cracked through the cedar grove like thunder. Elias shoved Ayanna behind the rocks, returned fire. Shadows moved among the trees. For riders, maybe 5, he recognized one, Cal Denny, the ranch foreman, rifle leveled and jaw tight with vengeance. "They won't stop," Elias muttered. "They want he gone. Me dead." Ayanna crawled beside him, aimed toward the trees. "Then we don't give them either." The fight lasted minutes, but it felt like hours. Dirt kicked up in sprays. Trees exploded in splinters. Elias caught a bullet through his thigh. and still managed to drop one rider from the saddle. Ayanna fired true, grazing another's arm and sending him fleeing. Then came the silence. Smoke drifted. Blood soaked the earth. Elias slumped against a rock, leg bleeding fast. "We have to go," she said, breathless, panic breaking through. He tried to stand, collapsed. Ayanna didn't hesitate. She tore his shirt, wrapped his wound, and with strength that defied her size, hauled him onto the horse. They rode until dusk, Elias drifting in and out, the world blurring into sound and ache. They reached the river by nightfall, too wide to cross in the dark, too slow to go back. She built a fire, tended to his wound. With herbs she crushed between stones. "Sleep," she whispered. "I'll keep watch." He didn't sleep. He watched her silhouette against the fire, her eyes scanning the dark like she could see the shape of what hunted them. At dawn, she woke him. "We cross now," she said, "or we die here." The current was strong. Elias barely clung to consciousness as they guided the horse into the water. Cold bit like knives. He held on, teeth clenched, blood leaking warmth into the river. They reached the far side. Just as the sun broke through the fog, they collapsed beneath a sycamore, gasping, drenched, but alive. Hours passed. Elias slept. When he woke, she was there, brushing his hair back. "We can't keep running," he said. "I know. They'll never stop. Then we turn and face them." He reached for her hand. "And if we lose?" "We already lost the moment we started pretending we could live apart." He kissed her then, not like a man desperate, but like one finally certain. Later, they made camp deeper into the woods. The world had narrowed to firelight, shared breath, and the ache of bodies pushed past breaking. She sang a lullaby her mother had once whispered by the river. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the grief in her voice. "I don't want to run anymore," he said. "Then we go back." To what? To the truth. They stared into the fire, the choice hanging between them. They could keep hiding, or return and make their stand. "Promise me something," she said. "Anything. If we die as who we are, not what they called us." He nodded. That night, under a sky full of watching stars, they held each other like people who knew the end might already be riding toward them. But they didn't let go. They never would. The sun rose blood orange over the prairie, burning through mist and memory. Elias Carter opened his eyes to the sound of horses in the distance, the crunch of hooves on brittle earth. He stirred, legs stiff, pain a dull throb beneath the crude bandage Ayanna had wrapped the night before. She was already awake, crouched low behind the brush, eyes sharp, bow gripped tight. "They found us," she whispered. He didn't ask how she knew. He'd felt it, too, the shift in the wind, the hush in the trees. Trouble had come riding, same as always with iron and fire. Within moments, they saw them crest the ridge, 5 men, rifles slung across saddles, dust trailing behind like a funeral shroud. At the front rode Cal Denny, face carved from old grudges, eyes set on one thing, Elias. Behind him, another rider bore a rope across his saddle horn, already tied. Elias pulled himself to his feet, swaying only once. "I go out first," he said. "You'll be shot." "Only if they aim well." Ayanna didn't argue. She just met his eyes, fierce and unflinching, then reached up and pressed something into his palm. Her mother's necklace, a string of turquoise beads worn smooth with time. "For strength," she said. He kissed her brow and stepped forward, arms raised, rifle slung behind him but unloaded. Every step felt like dragging chains behind him, but he didn't stop until he stood clear of the brush, bare to the rising light. Cal pulled up his horse and spat. "Thought you'd run further, Carter." "I didn't run," Elias said. "I gave you what you always wanted, space." "What I want," Cal growled, "is your body swinging in the square. You broke law. You stole from your own." "No," Elias said, voice steady. "I just stopped pretending I was one of you." Cal barked a bitter laugh. "And for what? For her? You think anyone's gonna weep when a squaw gets herself strung up with you?" Elias didn't answer. He just looked back, toward the brush, toward the place where Ayanna waited. Then a gunshot cracked the silence. Not aimed at Elias, but into the air. From the trees behind the riders came another group, warriors on horseback, bows drawn, paint across their faces like thunderclouds. Ayana's brother rode at their front, spear gleaming in the morning light. The Cheyenne had come. Cal shouted, reaching for his rifle, but Elias moved faster. He dove low, grabbed Cal's stirrup, yanked him from the saddle. The foreman hit the ground with a grunt, just as chaos exploded. Horses screamed. Dust churned. Shots rang out like firecrackers in dry brush. Arrows flew. Elias rolled for cover, caught a glimpse of Ayana loosing her bow from the ridge, her aim clean and merciless. A ranch hand screamed and fell. Another rider fled. The skirmish ended as fast as it had begun. 2 dead, 1 wounded, the rest scattered like leaves in a gale. Cal groaned, pinned beneath Elias's boot. "You were warned," Elias said, cocking the rifle. Cal laughed, teeth red. "Kill me, and the whole territory will come down on you." "I'm not going to kill you," Elias said. "You're going to ride back and tell them what happened, that you lost, that we're done running." Cal's eyes burned with hatred, but fear won. He spat again and staggered to his horse, mounting slow. "This ain't over, Carter." Elias watched him go, then turned to the others. The Cheyenne warriors were already retreating. Ayana's brother dismounted and crossed to him. "She loves you," he said simply. Elias nodded. "I do not understand it, but I saw today that you will bleed for her. I would die for her. Then do not let her bury you." He turned without waiting for thanks, disappearing into the trees like smoke on a breeze. Ayana came to Elias's side, lips trembling as she touched his arm. "You're hurt." "I'll live." She stared into his face, then pulled him to her, holding him like breath after drowning. The days that followed were quiet, but not easy. The shack no longer felt safe. They traveled west again, farther than they'd ever gone, across rivers swollen with spring, through canyons too narrow for fear. They found shelter in an old stone outpost abandoned after the war, ivy crawling up its cracked walls. They lived there, just the two of them, patching leaks, catching fish, sleeping curled in the dark like prayers made flesh. Elias healed. Ayana planted herbs in the sunlight. But peace, even the gentle kind, asks hard questions. "Do you miss it?" she asked one evening, watching the stars from a roof. "The town. Your people." "I missed the idea of it," he said. "What it was supposed to be. And now, I've got something better." She leaned her head on his shoulder, and for a long time neither spoke. But the world doesn't forget. One morning, a rider came, a Cheyenne courier. He bore no weapon, just a message from her father. Ayana was summoned back. Not for punishment, for decision. They traveled 3 days, cautious but unchallenged, until the trees opened into the broad circle of the Cheyenne camp. Tents rose like bones from the earth, and fires crackled low. The chief sat on a carved stump, eyes sharp despite his age. "You come back changed," he told Ayana. "I come back free," she said. "And you bring him still. He walks beside me, not behind." The chief looked to Elias. "You would live in exile?" "I already do." "You would raise children between 2 worlds?" "If I'm lucky enough." The chief turned to the council. They spoke in low tones, words drifting like smoke. Finally, the old man stood. "You may go," he said. "Together. But not here. Not under our sky." Then maybe it needed breaking. Another shot rang out. Elias felt the heat near his cheek as bark exploded inches from his head. He returned fire, one shot low and tight, heard the answering grunt. Not Cal. Another man down. Then silence. Smoke thickened. Somewhere a chicken squawked wildly, wings flapping. Elias took 1 step forward, and that's when the cabin caught fire. A bottle hurled, glass shattering against the wall. Flames erupted fast, licking dry wood, climbing higher. Elias's stomach twisted. Ayana. He ran for the door. She was already at the base of the stairs, baby in one arm, River holding her leg. "I have to get you out." "I won't leave you." "You have to. Now." Ayana's jaw set. She nodded once. "We'll circle to the stream. Wait in the hollow. I'll find you." "You'd better." She vanished into smoke. Elias turned, fury burning hotter than the flames. He stormed into the yard, rifle raised, sight locked on Cal. The man stepped forward, shotgun leveled, smirk growing. "Thought we'd have this dance," Cal growled. "No music left for you." They moved fast, Elias ducking left, Cal flanking wide. They traded shots, both missing, dust kicking, wood cracking. Elias rolled behind the water trough. Cal fired again, the shot shattering the edge. Elias popped up, fired. Cal screamed. His shoulder bloomed red, but he didn't drop the gun. "You think this changes anything?" Cal bellowed. "They'll come. You're dead, Carter. Maybe not today, but soon." Elias stepped forward, one final round chambered. "Then I'll die on my feet, not hiding." He pulled the trigger. Cal collapsed. It was over, but not quiet. The fire still ate the walls. Elias turned and ran, boots sliding, heart pounding. He called out once, twice, then finally saw them. Ayanna crouched behind the rocks near the stream, River in her lap, the baby bundled tight against her chest, her face streaked with ash, her eyes wet but fierce. They held each other for a long time. Later, as the sun rose fully over the smoldering wreck of what had been their home, Elias and Ayanna stood on the ridge above it all. Smoke curled into the air like ghosts leaving behind their last breath. "We can't stay," he said. "No," she replied, "but we survived." He looked down at her, took her hand. "Where do we go now?" "Anywhere," she said. "Anywhere they'll never find us again." Behind them, River played in the grass, laughter breaking through the fog like dawn. They turned their backs to the ruin and walked west, toward something not promised, but theirs. Whatever came next, they'd meet it together, with their heads high, their hearts strong, and the memory of fire behind them. Then maybe it needed breaking. Another shot rang out. Elias felt the heat near his cheek as bark exploded inches from his head. He returned fire, one shot low and tight, heard the answering grunt. Not Cal. Another man down. Then silence. Smoke thickened. Somewhere a chicken squawked wildly, wings flapping. Elias took one step forward, and that's when the cabin caught fire. A bottle hurled, glass shattering against the wall. Flames erupted fast, licking dry wood, climbing higher. Elias's stomach twisted. Ayanna. He ran for the door. She was already at the base of the stairs, baby in one arm, River holding her leg. "I have to get you out." "I won't leave you." "You have to. Now." Ayanna's jaw set. She nodded once. "We'll circle to the stream. Wait in the hollow. I'll find you." "You'd better." She vanished into smoke. Elias turned, fury burning hotter than the flames. He stormed into the yard, rifle raised, sight locked on Cal. The man stepped forward, shotgun leveled, smirk growing. "Thought we'd have this dance," Cal growled. "No music left for you." They moved fast, Elias ducking left, Cal flanking wide. They traded shots, both missing, dust kicking, wood cracking. Elias rolled behind the water trough. Cal fired again, the shot shattering the edge. Elias popped up, fired. Cal screamed. His shoulder bloomed red, but he didn't drop the gun. "You think this changes anything?" Cal bellowed. "They'll come. You're dead, Carter. Maybe not today, but soon." Elias stepped forward, one final round chambered. "Then I'll die on my feet, not hiding." He pulled the trigger. Cal collapsed. It was over, but not quiet. The fire still ate the walls. Elias turned and ran, boots sliding, heart pounding. He called out once, twice, then finally saw them. Ayanna crouched behind the rocks near the stream, River in her lap, the baby bundled tight against her chest, her face streaked with ash, her eyes wet but fierce. They held each other for a long time. Later, as the sun rose fully over the smoldering wreck of what had been their home, Elias and Ayanna stood on the ridge above it all. Smoke curled into the air like ghosts leaving behind their last breath. "We can't stay," he said. "No," she replied, "but we survived." He looked down at her, took her hand. "Where do we go now?" "Anywhere," she said. "Anywhere they'll never find us again." Behind them, River played in the grass, laughter breaking through the fog like dawn. They turned their backs to the ruin and walked west, toward something not promised, But theirs, whatever came next, they'd meet it together, with their heads high, their hearts strong, and the memory of fire behind them.